Hello everybody, I'm back. Finally, I got another video in. Alright. So basically, this review will be on MLP episode Mystery on Friendship Express. What do I think of it? Well, let me just say that the hatred on this episode just makes me boil in madness throughout the thick corners of my brain. This feels like a tumor that will never go away. And people are always complaining and groaning and moaning on this episode, complaining that it's one of the worst episodes of the show. I think this episode is very underrated. Actually, most overhated episode of the whole show. Mainly because with the other overhated episodes, I can kind of understand where the haters are coming from. But here, I don't understand it at all. So this review will be basically trying to go against those haters, and kind of a response video to one of the people who put a negative review on it, TheMysteriousMrEnter. Now, I don't hate his reviews. In fact, he's my favorite MLP reviewer, or a cartoon reviewer in general. I really like him, and I do understand he considers this episode a guilty pleasure. But yet, he still thinks it's a bad episode, so he's on my opposite end, so with all the references that this episode has, I might as well become an ace attorney and defend this episode. So basically, the episode it starts off with Pinky and the main six, going to take this giant cake to train heading to Camelot for this dessert event. And then when they get on the train, they see the other competitors for the event, other chefs, and their desserts as well. They have some interaction which shows that they are a little competitive, so in Twilight. And basically, Twilight suggests that they all get a sleep before going to Camelot. Okay, so here's Mr. Enter's very first complaint. He complains that going to Camelot doesn't take all night. You know what? How is that even a complaint? He does know it's a nitpick, but he still takes a point off it from the episode. I don't get that. Yeah. Okay. Basically, here's what I believe on this episode. That part. Now, I'm just gonna borrow something from Silver Quill, and from his Testing 1, 2, 3 episode review. He says that sometimes logic and time will take a back seat to serve the plot. If it doesn't really cause problems, then it doesn't matter. And that's sort of this situation here. It doesn't cause any problems, so why are you complaining? Okay, so then Pinky basically senses that something bad will happen to the desserts. She gets a bad vibe from the other chefs. And nobody believes her. Let's see. Mr. R complains that they should have believed her because of Lesson 0 and Twilight over freaking out. They already learned that lesson, you know? Well, here's how I believe it. Since Pinky wasn't going ape shit crazy like in Twilight in Lesson 0, and she's basically usually spouts nonsense, even in her best episodes, she sometimes just spouts nonsense. I'm able to believe that they wouldn't believe Pinky. So then Pinky decides to watch the cake overnight, just in case, guard it. So she then feels some pony run past her. She gives chase, but then she loses the shadow. Then she sees the second shadow. She chases that one, which leads to the front end of the train with the conductor. And Pinky does not ask the conductor anything. Okay, one complaint this episode isn't flawless, and one complaint I do have that I do agree with Mr. Enter is that nobody asks the conductor if he saw anything. And I can kind of understand what that can seem like a problem in this episode. But that's not really too big of a problem. It's just a little minor problem. Not a big, humongous problem like Mr. Enter makes off of it, going back to it over and over again. So then she heads back to the cake. Seth sees it's okay, but then the lights go off. We then hear a munch. Funny joke during that time. There was. And then they come back on, and Pinky decides to stay clear, watching to the cake. Then morning comes, and Twilight discovers, oh my gosh, somebody ate into the cake. Oh my gosh, that's terrible. Yeah, it's hard for me to get hyped up into these things. I feel like Mod 5, and during these reviews, I feel very lifeless. Okay. So now everybody finds out that somebody took a bite into the cake, and Pinky decides to investigate. Okay, first off, another complaint that the mysterious Mr. Enter has with this episode is that it's too predictable. I feel like that because this episode is extremely enjoyable, funny, really good. Because I believe that I don't think that the predictability really matters in this episode. So yeah. Okay, so now Pinky decides to investigate. And she starts by accusing the bakers and using her own train of thought, which involves referencing different medias like old old-timey movies, you know, with black and white, and talking with annotations. That's pretty funny. And also James Bond references and ninja movie references. These are probably the best part of the episode. They are just freaking hilarious how Pinkie Pie thinks. They're just all over the top and hysterical. Too bad there weren't any Ace Attorney investigations references, and that would have been perfect. And now, here's another complaint by the mysterious Mr. Enter. He says that Pinky is stupid in this episode. What? Really? You're calling Pinky stupid? You know, we've seen much worse from Pinky, Mr. Enter. But you and I need to have a talk right now about Pinky. You know that you overreacted in her Philly Vanilla review, acting like an idiot, and also about her beginning season 4 appearances. No. I don't believe that she was stupid in this episode, because she is getting something from her train of thoughts. And I believe that her thought process through this part of the episode goes along with Pinky's zaniness and her train of thought. That doesn't make her stupid! Yeesh. So, Pinky blames them because all of the 3 chefs, because their desserts are fine, and oh my gosh, the lights go off, they come back on, oh my gosh, the other desserts are eaten, somebody call 911! Yeah, Mr. Enter does say the episode is predictable. I already mentioned that it's still enjoyable, so whatever. And also, I don't think it's too predictable because new stuff keeps happening that keeps me guessing over and over if my logic is still right. I'll get more into that a little later. Okay, so now Twilight decides to take over the investigation, and she says to Pinky that she isn't a suspect, and Mr. Enter takes multiple points off for this. You know, if you don't agree with the opinions of someone and their reviews, then you can kind of see them as an asshole. I do respect his opinions, but I really disagree with them. Okay, so let me ask you this. Why would Pinky sabotage her own cake if she was looking at it overnight? Why would she eat her own cake? You think that she'd sabotage the other desserts, if she was going to do that? I mean, and accusing the others. He says accusing the others very quickly is more evidence piled on to saying that Pinky sabotaged her own cake, which still makes no sense because that's just Pinky being Pinky and just wanting to know who ate her own dessert. And that's why I think Twilight doesn't consider Pinky a suspect. That's her logic. Okay? Okay. So, back to the review. So Twilight wants Pinky to retrace her steps so they will be able to find clues. And when she does find a clue, she hides it. Now Mr. Enter really gets pissed off at this one. He says complaining about hiding evidence from the audience, saying that it's a load of shit, basically. That just shrinks it down into what he basically thinks of it. He thinks hiding evidence from the audience is a load of shit. Well, here's what I think. This is where that whole thing comes back. So I'm guessing who it really is if it builds up suspense. Seeing evidence that we don't know what it is, so it will build up suspense to want to find out who did it. Okay? That's what I think. So when they get back to Pinky and Twilight, finish their investigating, get back to the dessert car, she calls everyone in. I keep burping. Why do I keep burping? So Twilight then shows all the clues that about the people. I mean ponies. Ponies. About the ponies who eat the cake. Pinky doesn't blame the right ponies, and that's pretty funny. And I found this to be very funny. And Mr. Enter is complaining that they betray the ponies who ate the cake, Rainbow Dash, Rarity, and Fluttershy elements of loyalty, generosity, and kindness betrayed their elements in doing so. No, she wasn't blaming them because, I don't know, Pinky being Pinky. But anywho, basically Mr. Enter is also complaining about the pony. He says that the ponies eat the cake betrays their elements because even though it's temptation, they break their elements. Objection! I just need to yell objection. So I object to that. Basically, that's the major complaint against this episode from anybody who hates it. They complain that the main six eating the cake, I mean, the three of the main six eating the cake was betraying their elements. Okay, let me get something straight here. You are all acting like fucking hypocrites. You heard me right. Because of that, you can't judge the ponies solely by their elements. And you know what pisses me off more is that reviewers who said that in previous episodes complain about that exact topic right here. That is extremely hypocritical. And Mr. Enter does not exclude himself from that group because he is very hypocritical at that point. Yeah. Temptation really gets the best of us at points. And acting very snarky towards the people who have let temptation overcome them. Even though you have gotten, all of us have failed towards temptation any time in our lives, some way, shape, or form. And saying that nobody can, but you still do. That makes you even more hypocritical! God damn it. Okay, so now he says that, what if somebody planted evidence? And he still thinks that there's more evidence towards Pinky eating the cake. Didn't I just go through this before? Alright, planting evidence? Really? This is meant for little girls. I don't fucking care if it's still want adults to enjoy it. It is meant for fucking girls. This is meant to be a goddamn simple plot. It's supposed to be simple plot, not too complicated. That's why planting evidence is not a thing. And still, there is still less evidence against Pinky. There is basically nothing against her. And all the evidence pointed against the ponies, it racks up more against them than against Pinky. So take that, Mr. Enter. You just got owned. I still like you. I still think you're a good cartoon reviewer. Don't think I hate you. But anyway. Then the three ponies apologize to Pinky and Pinky accepts it. And then Mr. Enter gets more bent out of shape, like how I'm getting bent out of shape right now against his opinions. He's complaining that Pinky accepts their apology. Okay. Now, more hypocrisy against you. The three ponies learned their lesson about temptation. You said in your Sweet and Elite review, that you just need to know that the characters have learned the lesson. And that goes against your previous thoughts. That makes you even more of a hypocrite. And it all depends on the situation that the person who is saying that's okay to forgive them. Since Pinky was able to forgive them in her heart, it shouldn't matter. I mean, god damn it, this is a goddamn show about love and tolerance. Which means not only are you going against your own thoughts, you're going against, in this review, just this review alone, that you're going against the message of what this show is trying to stand for, just like in Dragon Quest. Yeah, I went there. I just went there. So Pinky does some actual real investigating and finds out that the bakers, other bakers, ate the other desserts because they said temptation. Mr. Ender complains that they're professionals. They live around food. They should know better than this. Objection, 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 objection. I'm throwing objections against your whole goddamn review of this episode. Okay. People have done much worse in competitions than whatever they did here. And just because chefs live around food doesn't mean that they can't fall towards temptation. Okay, so now, after all of that, they all pitch in to make one dessert at the event. And they have a moral about jumping to conclusions, which is a good moral but not too relevant. I still wish they had a moral and still stated a moral on temptation. I really do wish that they talked about temptation a little bit. That's kind of one of the problems against this episode that I do have with it. So, in the end, I need to talk a little bit more about the ponies betraying their elements. Because once again, because this is a very big part of the episode that everybody complains about, the betraying their elements. I mean, really. Okay, so, I'm just here on DeviantArt from Silver Eagle 91, talking about the Mystery and the Friendship Express video. She talks about how the other ponies have betrayed their elements before, and that I just don't get why they complain. They're not perfect. You're expecting all the characters to be perfect, no flaws. Okay, that is bullshit. You can't have characters be perfect. They can't follow their elements the whole damn show. There would be no conflict. Do you want this to turn out like the previous generations with no conflict? Everybody's perfect. I'm sorry, I'm getting bent out of shape, but all the hate on this episode has been building up and building up on me, and it really pisses me off. I just don't get it at all. Now do you see why I consider this the most overhated episode of the whole show? I mean, I freaking love this episode. It is just fantastic to me. It's one of my favorites. It is really enjoyable. Really funny. It's a very good mystery story in my opinion. Right, once again, to remind you, my only complaints is with no pony asking what the conductor saw. Yeah, I don't get that. And missing that moral on temptation. So what grade would I give this episode? 2 gold stars, 12 out of 15. This is a must-see episode in my opinion. If you like mystery stories, then you're gonna love this episode. And I really strongly disagree with all of the hatred against this episode. This episode does not deserve any of it. I really believe that. Well, I finally got that over with, so what do you think of the episode? Do you like the episode? Do you love the episode? And do you hate me now for bashing one of the reviews of Mysterious Mr. Renner? Once again, I really like you, Mr. Renner. I just don't agree with this episode. I still respect your opinions, okay? So what do you think? Blah, blah, blah. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, blah, blah, blah. I'm Squid Baconator, and bye.